Okay, well, cool. Thank you for having me, everybody. Maybe I'll go a little bit faster because we lost 7 minutes, but that's cool. So, gonna crack on and talk about some things. First of all, I'll tell you who I am. We're going to talk about how, tech has changed and how security has changed with it. We'll talk about the threat landscape. I'm going to give you some fun. I mean, we've been talking about the threat landscape all day in other people's talks, but I'm going to do more. We'll talk about some stuff you shouldn't do. And then some really high level, some capabilities that if you're doing cloud, which I assume everybody is in some way, shape, or form, you should be knowing about and stuff you should be doing. So first of all, who am I? Real quick. I'm a senior cloud security advocate at Microsoft. These are my dogs. They're very cute. Clearly, they're not here with me. I live in Australia, but I am here. Hooray. I think I win the prize for coming the furthest. You know, at some conferences, they're like, who traveled the furthest? And I'm like, pretty sure it's me. Because clearly it's a competition, right? I like talking about security. I've been doing it for ages. I'm definitely a crazy dog woman. But one of the reasons I'm at B-Sides Leads, because I think the B-Sides Leads crew were probably a little bit confused when I submitted to the CFP. They were like, why is this woman from Australia submitting all these talks? Well, it's actually because I did actually grow up in Yorkshire. This is my hometown B-Sides. This is me. I used to work at Betty's. This is me in the front of the Ilkley Gazette, quite a long time ago when I was 19. So I actually do, although people hear different things in the accent now. Genuinely, I actually am from around here. I just haven't lived here for a very long time. So I was super stoked to come and do my hometown B-Sides. So hooray, yay. I promise I'm actually from Yorkshire. So that's why I'm here. Also, I literally just came down on the train from my mum and dad's house. So, cause I went to see them. So let's talk about some stuff rather than, me and my strange accent. Look. The world has changed. If you ask questions or if you put your hand up and you confess to your security sins, I will throw a Tim Tam at you. For those of you who don't know what Tim Tams are, they are Australian biscuits. They are individually wrapped for COVID. So, we're nice and hygienic here. And you need to go online. You don't just eat them now. You need to go online and look up Tim Tam Slam and do that. It's not dodgy, I promise. They're all dirty-minded. It is legit. It is a completely clean activity. So, and now I see everyone going on the phone okay. So, look, there are a lot of things that have changed, right? I started in security I started in tech about 15 years ago-ish. We've changed things. We have the hybrid of everything. So we don't just have on-prem anymore like we used to. The threat landscape is changing every 5 minutes. Now we've got AI that we're talking about, which no one was talking about 6 months ago. By the way, I'm not going to talk about AI because there's a lot of armchair AI experts out there, and I'm not going to pretend to be one of them. When we're using cloud, and it doesn't matter what cloud it is, we've got this shared responsibility model that you need to understand. What I find is we're getting better is that we tend to have we vary between two extremes. There are the people who are like, oh, I'm putting it in the cloud. Oh, that's someone else's responsibility now. I don't need to care about the security suite. That's Microsoft, Amazon, Google's problem. And then you have the people who are like, oh no, I still need to 100% secure it. Excuse me, can I walk through your data center? Because I don't trust you, which you also can't do most of the time. And then we've got all of our changing processes and architectures. So we're doing DevSecOps, we're doing shift left and infrastructure as code, blah, blah. So there's a lot of things changing more generally in IT that change the way we need to look at security. And it's a big change. If you were born in the cloud, as in you maybe started in the last 5 years, maybe you only know this, but for those of us who've been around a bit longer, that have been changes. And even if you were born in cloud, you will notice that there are still architectures and legacies and hangovers that you need to understand from how we used to do things because it's still a thing. This is a really sweet-ass diagram that I love just to explain, see if it looks familiar to people. So you can see here, we have a data center that has 5 firewalls. I don't know why it has 5, because we love firewalls, right? On-prem security. The more firewalls you have, the better. Particularly if you deconstruct the traffic and reconstruct it 6 times. That's extremely secure. And then generally businesses have started using SaaS. They would have everything in data center, maybe use the odd SaaS thing, whether it's Office, G Suite, whatever. Then we started, I put first class mobile experience, but BYOD. People are like, I want my email on my phone. I want my email on my tablet. I'm not going to use my work laptop all the time. And then you might have Internet of Things. That might be a thing as well. And then essentially what you see here, though, is now we have a completely different perimeter. That blue perimeter that we used to have, that is your traditional on-prem. But nowadays, our enterprise perimeter is completely different. So it's not just in the data center. And this is the thing that we have as a challenge. Oh, and of course, I've just realized I completely forgot to mention, we have cloud providers there as well. So whether that's infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, but basically, this has changed a lot. And we need to change our thinking, and we're still getting there. Like, we still have, I was talking to a developer 2 weeks ago who was telling me, I'm trying to build an application in cloud, but the security team insist that we hairpin all the internet through on-prem, which breaks my application because I'm not allowed to directly break out to the internet, and I don't understand how that is more secure. And I was kind of like, me neither, sorry. And so, we need to think about these things. And then real quick, whatever. We'll go past that because I'm running out of time. Not running out of time, but I have short time. This is one of my favorite. Let's talk about the threat landscape. So I'll put the whole slide up so you can also read it in your own time as I go around. This kind of stuff comes from, these figures come from Microsoft Research. They're US dollars. We have loads of research teams, but always remember, and this is something that Holly said this morning, that attackers they're not going to spend loads of time and money doing something complicated if they can do something easy. So, we worry about 0 days, right? We think, 0 days, scary, scary, scary. It's unpatchable. What are we going to do? But if you look, a 0 day costs quite a lot of money to develop and quite a lot of time. Whereas denial of service, you can get for $100 a day, you can DDoS someone, or if you want to bargain, you can get it for like $750 a month. The one that gets me on there, I won't read them all out, is ransomware. So to buy ransomware on the dark web, it's about $66. Or, and this is quite disturbing, you can essentially go on the dark web and get ransomware as a service. So instead of you buying the software and doing it yourself, you commission them to do it for you, and when your victim pays up, they clip the ticket and take 30% of the profit. And so this is how accessible this stuff is becoming. I have a friend who works in the New Zealand CERT, so the Cyber Emergency Response Teams. I don't know what the UK equivalent is. I'm sure the UK has one. It's essentially the government department that anybody in the public can go and talk to for cybersecurity advice. Do you know what their number one call is about? Just from the general public with cybersecurity concerns. Any guesses? I'll throw you Tim Tam. Guesses? No, but you answered the question. You are literally at the other side of the room. Let's see. There you go. Someone, we'll just do the relay along. So, their number one call is DDoS, but not just any DDoS. It is teenagers DDoSing each other at stuff like Fortnite, okay? So you can go online, you can get a DDoS service for $1, and you can DDoS your Fortnite rival and take them offline so you can win. That is a thing. So think about this. If teenagers can access, basically cyber attacking services, albeit low-level ones, to just get each other at Fortnite, think what someone who's slightly more serious can do. It's really scary. So whilst we often think, these attackers, they'll be black hats, they'll be this, they'll be that, they'll be doing complicated things, it's really not the case. It's so easy and so accessible. Virtually anyone can go and do attacking. Now, obviously, don't take away from this that you should go and buy things and go do attacking, but it's crazy accessible. It will happen to you. So I think we still are not quite there in thinking this. But just to look at this kind of cloud security, because that's what I'm talking about. And again, it doesn't matter. I don't care what cloud here. I realize I work for Microsoft, but principally this doesn't change. These are the kind of capabilities you need to look at those main problems that we have. I'll just put the whole thing up, but you can see you need stuff like threat detection, obviously, that will look for ransomware, that will look for compromised PCs and devices. You'll want if for spear phishing, really you need stuff like MFA. I mean, I know spear phishing, if you're super clever, they can sometimes get around MFA, but it makes it harder, right? And passwordless. And then for DDoS, of course, we still need our good old firewalls. I don't want to badmouth the firewalls because I was a network engineer before I did security, but, you know, what I don't want, there's still too many security people who think firewalls are the be-all and end-all, and they are not. Like, we need other things. And then we also have best practices and standards, and there's loads of them out there. I'm not going to mention them all, but, you know, this is kind of where we need to be. And hopefully you have all of these things in some way, shape, or form. But yeah. And the reason this is important, I love this. Every year, Microsoft releases something called the Digital Defense Report. It's usually in about November. So we're not due another one quite yet. But all of our research shows that, like, if we just did the basics right, doing MFA, least privilege, patching things, the stuff that's not super sexy or super cool, you would get rid of like 98% of the potential breaches because attackers look for the easy stuff. You know, I think it's difficult, you know, because it's not super sexy. Patching is not sexy. Keeping things up to date is not super cool. But this hygiene piece is so important. And we still don't do it right. And traditionally, before we were in cloud, it was like really onerous and boring to do hygiene stuff. Whereas now we do have a lot of tools that will do it easier, which I'll talk, and capabilities. So I'll talk about that later. I'm going to skip a couple of slides just because I'm conscious of time and I've already talked about them. I promise I'm not skipping anything important, and I'm sure I will put the slides somewhere later. So, but let's talk about some stuff you shouldn't be doing. Anti-patterns. Now, if you don't know what an anti-pattern is basically a common response to a recurring problem that isn't effective. I'm sure you can all think of things we do here. Whereas what we should be doing is best practices, and it's a best practice is something that if you do it consistently, it will actually improve your outcomes, unlike an anti-pattern. So, hands up if any of these seem familiar. Positioning security as an adversary to business and IT. Anyone seen that? Yeah. Using on-premises controls to secure the cloud. Yeah. Like, I see there's a solid, like, block over here. Yeah. Trying to secure workloads after they are fully architected or deployed. Yeah. Let's just do it afterwards. That's easy. And then, This is my favorite one. And as a room full of security professionals or aspiring security professionals, this is the one I probably want to talk to you, like, impress upon you the most. Security owning the risk. Who here has met or may have been at one point in their life, and I will confess, I am a reformed person who did this earlier in my career, that you feel like it is your mission to do the security properly. And it doesn't matter whether, you know, the risk is really yours. You're going to act like it's yours and be like, no. We have to stop. We can't do this. You know, they take it as a God-given mission. Usually causes problems, right? Anyone want to confess to doing that? Again, I'll throw biscuits at you. Oh, it's always the people at the back. I can't throw a biscuit that far, my friend. I can't throw a biscuit that far. You can come get one. This gentleman is there, so I can throw one. We don't own right. In any I'm not getting into a risk discussion here, but in any organization, as a technical security professional, you should not be owning risks. You don't make enough money. You've not got enough seniority. You should be advising business people about risks. And if your organization doesn't work like that, like, you need to be looking at your functions and stuff. And again, I'm not like one of those people who's going to talk about business functions and how to structure that today, but you don't own the risk. Somebody, usually with a C in front of their job title, should be owning things and taking responsibility. So even if you don't 100% agree, if you say, hey, this is super risky and I wouldn't do it, I would resolve this issue. If you can't, like, if the business decides to keep going, that's fine because they're owning the risk. Just remember that, because it's fine. I promise. So let's talk about some capabilities and stuff you should know about and stuff you should be doing. Now, again, I realize you can't do everything. And I might throw in a couple of Microsoft names here, but generally I just want you to know I'm talking about capabilities. So if you don't use the Microsoft version, I'm okay. Think of the capability. So, in an identity, store user identities. I say Azure AD, but again, if you're using a different identity store, fair enough. Use conditional access. So this morning, Holly Grace was talking about the number of lockout attempts, that there were you could do 5 in 30 minutes or whatever it was. We shouldn't be using that at all. I totally wanted to heckle, but that's rude and it's a keynote, so I didn't. But we shouldn't be using lockout attempts anymore. It's extremely old school. Like nowadays, identity stores are smarter than that. They can look at in short, and again, it doesn't matter which one you're using. Essentially, what they do is they look at the attributes of a login, where it's from, what time it is, what things they're accessing, what device it's coming across, and they assign it a risk, high, medium, low, and then you can define what happens. It might be a lockout action, it might not be, but we shouldn't be using the number of lockout attempts, but I know it still does exist, and for those people who are pen testers, that stuff is gold. So, use and look, I mean, we've said it again, I'll say it a billion times, use MFA, use a key vault or a secret store. Don't just chuck don't chuck creds in places. And also don't just put strings in things. It's horrible. Make sure client secrets have relatively short expiration lives. Who here has configured a secret or a certificate for 1,000 years? Yes. How many years was it? 999? Oh, there you go.
Maximum's like 2 years, though, isn't it?
Yeah, it's been reduced, yes. But it also depends on some other policies as well. 2 years, not bad. I've seen a lot worse. Yes. Oh, hello. Like, do you want more Tim Tams? You're just throwing out my product names here. So, things like, look. Yeah, I don't use my dog's name as my password, by the way, but whatever. It would be far too obvious. In terms of connectivity, should be using a secure bastion or a jump host. Who here has seen or uses, if you want to confess for a biscuit, confess your security sins, we're in a safe place, a random bastion that they spun up that never gets patched, that is completely outside everything else, and they actually use it as their secure thing to access the rest of the environment. It doesn't belong to you, so it's okay. Oh, okay. That's pretty much worth a biscuit, I feel like. That's worth a biscuit. For API stuff. Now, we're not in Australia. You may or may not know that there have been a couple of very high-profile breaches in Australia at the end of last year. One that involved a very big telco that was to do with API security. Very embarrassing for them. So API is hot stuff over there. But, you should be using API management tooling, load balancing. We think that might not be security. Remember, security is CIA, confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Load balancers help with availability. Also encrypt stuff, because encrypt stuff. It should be pretty easy. In terms of logging and monitoring, you should have your logging on for everything. I mean, I know logging creates a lot of noise, but have it all on. Collect it into a central place. Don't just send it nowhere or send it into lots of little disparate stores where no one can do anything with it. And also, by the way, I have a sticker. Sadly, I managed to not pack it. And that says collection is not detection. So if you collect the logs and do nothing with them, that is not that useful. Yeah, collection is not detection, okay? And automate everything, okay? I'm not talking about AI and stuff, but a lot of this stuff is very tedious. In cloud, again, no matter what cloud it is, we can automate loads and loads and loads of this stuff. Don't be having someone do this manually because we just don't have enough people. There's a couple of interesting scenarios. We've got signing into disabled accounts, inbox rules, failed logon attempts, files and folders shared externally. These are the kind of things you should have as some scenarios that you should monitor for. But use out-of-the-box things if you're not sure. It's a start. Right, posture management. This is something I'm extremely passionate about. I already talked about security hygiene. Now, CPSM tooling is cloud security posture management. Microsoft's version is called Defender for Cloud. It is the artist previously known as Azure Security Center if you use Azure. But basically, CSPM tooling will have a look at everything you've got in your estate. usually across multiple clouds, and say, hey, you've got an unpatched machine. Hey, did you know that storage thing is completely open to the internet? Maybe you should fix that. And it makes it way, way easier. And actually some of these things will, if you want them to, it will automatically remediate it. So that really tedious security hygiene piece is so much easier with CSPM tooling. So if you're not using that shit, if you're not, don't do it, because it's actually crazy easy to set up and really, really nice. And lifting your security hygiene is by far and away the best thing you can do to like lower your risk of getting owned. And then last but not least, for the devs in the room or people who are working with devs, don't forget your code stuff. I mean, you should be using secure development practices, and then your cloud native stuff. I won't talk about secure development so much, but infrastructure as code security, that needs, there are tools out there for that. There's DevOps security management, doing pipeline security, all important stuff. And I was finished on this one. Oh, I love that transition. This is, and I'm going a little bit fast because I do want to finish on time because I like to be respectful of people's breaks. But here's like a nice overview of some security capabilities you should have. As you can see, you'll notice, it doesn't matter what cloud it is, but all I'll say is don't have tooling that just looks at one cloud. It's completely useless. If you've got a multi-cloud, or if you've got cloud and on-prem and hybrid, which most people will, your security tooling needs to be looking across everything, absolutely everything, because, attackers don't just look at one thing. They don't look in silos. You need to have the view across absolutely everything. So really, really important. I've gone a little bit fast on this, but that's because we kind of had a 7-minute delay. But I will stop there. If you go to the QR code, that's a link to lots of cool, interesting links. It's not dodgy, I promise, because I know people are suspicious about QR codes and security conferences. That just takes you to a GitHub page where I have a lot of useful links. It's easier. I found it's way easier for people to get to them. Some of it's Microsoft-y stuff, some of it isn't. A lot of it is very generic guidance about things you should do. Come and have a free-for-all on the Tim Tams. I'm not taking them home with me. I do usually have stickers, but I did take them upstairs to the sticker table for charity. So if you want some cool stickers, I do have cool stickers, I promise. I'm biased, but they're all upstairs, so you can go do good things and donate to charity. That's such a cool idea. I'll hang around here for a bit whilst people go and get tea and biscuits. Sorry, I went a little bit fast, but hopefully you found that interesting. Bit of a whistle-stop tour in 20 minutes through the talk, but thanks very much, Leeds. I'm super stoked to have got to come and do a B-Sides in Leeds, so thanks very much.